She expected you to fall apart. That's what they always expect. When a woman walks away, especially after she's been chased, adored, or forgiven too many times, she leaves with a certain confidence. Confidence that you'll spiral, that you'll text her within hours, begging for closure, craving a conversation that will never satisfy. But what she didn't expect was silence. Real silence. Not the manipulative kind. Not the, let me wait 3 days to look strong kind. No. The kind of silence that comes from inner stillness. From a man who is finally grounded. From a man who no longer reacts to chaos, but withdraws from it. That silence, it's deafening. It's maddening. It makes her obsess. Not because you said something powerful, but because you said nothing. Because in your stillness, she sees your power. And in that power, she sees everything she lost. That's where the regret begins. She starts checking her phone more than she should. Not because she needs something, but because she expected something. A message, a sign, a crack in your resolve. But it doesn't come. And now, the silence she once found peaceful becomes loud. Her thoughts race. Did he move on already? Was I not that important? Is this who he truly was beneath the neediness? That's the twist. When you withdraw without drama, without words, you force her to sit with a version of you she never met. The version of you who doesn't need validation, who doesn't fear solitude, who doesn't chase. And it burns. Not because you hurt her, but because you didn't need to. You outgrew the version of yourself she once walked over. And that growth, done silently, becomes the loudest statement you've ever made. She replays every moment in her mind, now tinted with the new lens of your silence. The way you smiled without expectation. The way you listened more than you spoke. The way you looked at her, not to impress, but to understand. All those moments, once taken for granted, begin to feel sacred. And your absence starts to create presence. That's the paradox. When you're no longer there, your energy expands in her awareness. She talks about you more, asks mutual friends about you, wonders what you're thinking, where you are, who you're with. But here's the secret. You're not doing this to manipulate. You're doing it because you've finally turned inward. You've shifted from needing her attention to mastering your attention. And women feel that shift, not with logic, but with instinct. Something about you no longer being easily reachable makes her want to reach. Because humans crave what's out of reach, especially when it once felt guaranteed. If this is already shifting your perspective, hit subscribe and tap the bell. There's more truth coming your way. Now she's scrolling through your old messages, not to find something specific, but to feel your energy again. She's watching your stories, hesitating to react. She's wondering if you've moved on, if someone else has your focus. And it bothers her, but she won't admit it. Instead, she might post a selfie looking unusually happy. A cryptic quote. A flash of a new guy's arm at dinner. But none of it's for them. It's for you. It's her way of saying, look what you lost. But the truth is, she feels the loss too. Because silence, when held with strength, doesn't scream. It echoes. It lingers in the room long after you've left. And every moment she expected a reply that didn't come, every time she thought of you and stayed silent too, it built the tension. And tension, when unbroken, becomes magnetism. Not noise, not chaos, but stillness that draws her back in. And here's the twist. When you don't chase, she begins to question everything. Was he ever that into me? Did I misread his energy? Did I do something wrong? Her mind becomes a loop of what ifs. She replays moments where you smiled, where you leaned in close, where your presence felt like gravity. But now that you're silent, it all feels like a mystery. And women are drawn to mystery more than they'll ever admit. Your silence makes her feel like the story is unfinished, like there's a page she forgot to read. That's the power of restraint. Most men, when they feel a woman pulling away, panic. They write long texts, call repeatedly, try to fix it. But the man who understands emotional gravity, he leans back. He lets her feel the vacuum. Because only in silence does she hear her own heart beating for you. And here's where the transformation happens. Not in her, but in you. The man who can remain still in emotional chaos becomes a mirror that reflects her insecurities, her doubts, and her regrets. And the longer you hold your silence, the deeper she dives into herself. This isn't manipulation, it's nature. Women feel more when there's space. They remember better when there's absence. Your words might fade, but your energy, that lingers. And when she doesn't get a response, her mind amplifies everything. Suddenly, your quiet confidence becomes a roar in her subconscious. That moment you walked away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, becomes the turning point in her story. She starts wondering not why you left, but why she ever thought you wouldn't. She replays your last conversation, the tone of your voice, the steadiness in your eyes, the way you didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't flinch. That memory grows stronger in your silence. It's not the grand gestures she misses. It's the unwavering presence you carried when you said nothing at all. While most men argue, explain, try to fix, your silence creates a contrast so stark she can't ignore it. It's magnetic. It's rare. And it forces her to confront what she lost without the comfort of blaming you. The absence of your voice becomes the loudest message she's ever heard. And that message echoes louder than any apology or plea ever could. She starts to question herself. Was she too impulsive? Did she misjudge you? Because here you are, not fighting for attention, not proving your worth, not lowering your value. And it stings. Not because you're gone, but because you didn't break when she expected you to. Your silence exposes the imbalance. She needed your presence more than you needed her validation. That realization flips the script. The man who walks away without a word, not in anger but in peace, disrupts her ego. Not because he's trying to manipulate, but because he's mastered detachment. And that kind of power haunts her. Now, she watches, quietly, from the shadows of her social media, through friends' updates, even in her dreams. She listens for signs that you're hurting, yet finds none. She hopes you'll reach out, yet you don't. And this absence, wrapped in silence, becomes louder than any message you could ever send. Because she expected drama, she expected emotion, but instead, she's left with a void she has to fill with imagination. And the mind, left unchecked, crafts stories more intense than reality. She starts to wonder, has he found someone else? Was I just a chapter and not the story? That's when the regret blooms. Quiet at first, then loud. She opens old photos, revisits your texts, trying to decipher what went wrong. But the more she digs, the more confused she becomes. Because you're not doing what most men do. You're not chasing, pleading, proving. You've vanished from her stage, but you've taken the spotlight with you. And here's the paradox. The more you pull back, the more space she has to project her unresolved feelings onto you. That silence you're holding, it's not just quiet, it's magnetic. It reflects her own emotional chaos, and she begins to feel that maybe, just maybe, losing you was her biggest mistake. She starts to compare. Every man she meets is now unconsciously held up against the ghost of you. Your calm, your discipline, your silence. She remembers how you made her feel, not just the good, but also the tension, the mystery, the sense that you were always slightly out of reach. And that's exactly what makes it stick. You weren't trying to win her over. You weren't emotionally needy. You had gravity. And in the absence of your presence, that gravity only grows. Because women don't regret losing men who begged. They regret losing men who made them feel something rare and then disappeared. She starts to replay the moments. Not the fights, not the problems, but the way you looked at her when she laughed. The way you listened without rushing to speak. The way you touched her lower back gently as you passed behind her. These aren't loud memories. They're quiet, subtle, but they echo, and they echo louder in your silence. While you've said nothing, your absence is screaming. And she starts to realize what she thought was indifference was actually mastery. You weren't cold. You were composed. You weren't playing games. You were simply unshakable. And that contrast starts to haunt her. She scrolls through old texts, looking for signs she missed. Suddenly, your short replies seem profound. Your pauses feel powerful. The way you didn't chase now looks like wisdom, not disinterest. She tells herself you're probably seeing someone else. But deep down, she hopes you're not. Because silence has now created a mystery around you. A mystery she can't decode. And that's what pulls her in deeper. Not knowing is more seductive than certainty. And the more silent you remain, the more she's left to fill in the blanks, with the most flattering possibilities. That's when obsession began. She starts testing the waters. A like on an old photo, a random message, a question she already knows the answer to, just to see if you'll respond. But when you don't bite, when you hold your frame, it shakes her. Most men would have jumped at the chance, replied instantly, tried to re-engage. But your silence says you're no longer orbiting around her. You've become the sun, and now she's drawn into your gravity. It flips the power dynamic. You're no longer the man trying to win her attention. You're the man she can't stop thinking about. That's the silent comeback, and it speaks louder than anything you could have said. Now the emotional tension starts to build, on her end. She begins wondering, did I make a mistake? Has he moved on? Does he even care? These questions loop in her mind like a broken record. Because your silence isn't empty. It's pregnant with possibility. You didn't argue. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. That absence of response creates space for her own feelings to echo back at her. And what echoes is regret. She starts replaying the moments, the things she said, the things she didn't. She scrolls through your old messages, looking for clues, trying to decode a puzzle that only exists because you stayed silent. Now something subtle happens. Her perception of your value starts to shift. Not because you did anything flashy or manipulative, but because you didn't collapse. Most men react. They text, call, explain, justify. But you became still. Stillness is powerful. It radiates control. It suggests you have a deeper well inside you, one she never fully explored. And in that stillness, she senses strength. A man who can lose her without losing himself. That's rare. That's magnetic. Women are biologically wired to test for strength. Not just physical, but emotional. by saying nothing, you passed a test she didn't even know she was giving. She may not reach out right away, but make no mistake, she notices. She scrolls through her messages, expecting a ping from you. She checks your story, sees no sign of weakness. You're not posting quotes about heartbreak. You're not throwing shade. You're just living. And that's unsettling to her ego, because in her mind, you were supposed to fall apart. You were supposed to chase. But now, she's left with a void, one that she created, but one that you refuse to fill. That void becomes a mirror. She starts to question her choice, and without a word from you, regret begins to bloom. She remembers the little things, the way you looked at her when she spoke, the quiet confidence in your touch, the way you listened, not just to respond, but to understand. And now, in the silence, those memories echo louder. See, when you say nothing, she fills in the blanks. She wonders if you've moved on, if someone else now gets the version of you she took for granted. That uncertainty burns, because if you had begged, pleaded, explained, it would have confirmed her power. But silence? Silence flips the script. Now she's the one wondering, worrying, wanting. And you? You're just out there, unbothered, unavailable, irresistible. She scrolls through old messages, rereading moments she once overlooked. Every laugh you shared, every thoughtful gesture. All those times you showed up, and she brushed it off. And now? That silence you've mastered. It's not just absence, it's presence. It's a loud, echoing statement that says, I don't chase, I elevate. And here's the twist. When you act like you need nothing, people offer everything. You didn't post cryptic quotes. You didn't play games. You simply walked in a new direction. And now, her mind is chasing ghosts of what was and what could have been. Now she's the one imagining scenarios, replaying what she should have said, what she could have done, wondering if someone else now receives the quiet confidence you once gave freely. And that's the power of presence in absence. You didn't beg. You didn't explain. You didn't try to prove your worth. You became a mirror, reflecting what she lost, not through anger, not through blame, but through self-respect. And that's how you make her regret losing you, without ever saying a single word.